All right, so you sent a whole stack of information over on Gufic BioSciences and their recent Q3 FY25 results. We've got press releases and presentations, even an earnings call transcript. So let's dig in and see what we can find.
Yeah, we've got the official company filings and commentary from Gufic's leadership during the investor call. So it's like we get the inside scoop and the public face. Yeah.
It's a backstage pass to their strategy. Before we dive into the details, though, for someone who might not be super familiar with Gufic, how would you sum them up?
Well, Gufic BioSciences is a research-driven company, and they specialize in injectables. But what makes them stand out is their expertise in lyophilized injections.
Lyophilized injections. Can you break that down a little?
Sure, it's basically a freeze-drying process that turns the drug into a powder. This makes the medication much more stable and easier to store and transport, which is really important for a place like India.
So they're not just your average pill makers. All right, let's get into the specifics of these Q3 results. Revenue came in at 207.8 crores. Good, bad, or just meh?
Well, context is key, right? It's actually a bit lower than the previous quarter, but it's up significantly from Q3 of last year.
Interesting. What about their profitability? They reported an EBITDA margin of 17.23%. What does that tell us?
EBITDA is essentially a way to measure a company's operating profitability, how much money they're making from their core business activities. So a 17.23% margin means that for every 100 rupees of revenue, they're keeping roughly 17 rupees as profit, before accounting for things like taxes and interest.
Okay, so are those healthy margins for a company like Gufic?
It's tough to say without comparing it to industry averages, but it's something we'll want to keep an eye on as we look a little deeper.
For sure. Okay, on to what seems to be a major talking point. Their new manufacturing facility in Indore. What's the big deal with this place?
Oh, this facility is a game changer. It's much larger than their existing plants, and it's going to be able to produce a ton of lyophilized injections, plus other formulations. And it's designed to meet both domestic and international demand, including all those strict regulations.
So they're setting themselves up for global domination. They've already started generating revenue from Indore, right?
Exactly. They reported an initial revenue of 6 crores this quarter, which is nothing compared to what they're projecting. It's expected to hit 150 crores in the next financial year.
Wow, talk about ambitious goals. Now, Gufic isn't just building factories, they're launching new products across multiple divisions. Where should we start?
Well, I think Criticare is a good example of how they're tackling pressing healthcare issues. They're leading the fight against antimicrobial resistance.
Okay, hold on. Antimicrobial resistance.
Yeah, basically bacteria and other microbes are becoming resistant to the effects of medications, which makes infections harder to treat.
That's scary. So what is Gufic doing?
They're developing and launching innovative antibiotics, like dalbavancin. It's a long-acting antibiotic that's effective against a wide range of bacteria, even those that have become resistant to other commonly used antibiotics.
So they're staying ahead of the curve.
Right.
What else?
They also launched Sepsivac, which helps the body fight sepsis, a life-threatening condition that can develop from infections.
And they've got more in the pipeline. I read about a new ceftazidime-avibactam combination.
Yep, that one is still in development, but it's designed to target some of the most resistant bacteria, especially those found in hospitals.
Sounds like they're really emphasizing research and development. Let's shift gears and talk about Ferticare. What's their focus?
They're addressing the growing need for effective fertility treatments, which is a huge issue in India. They're developing products that go beyond standard IVF protocols, using science-backed solutions to tackle the most challenging aspects of infertility.
I was reading about their Guficin Alpha launch. It's designed to help couples who experience recurrent implantation failure during IVF.
Yeah, implantation failure is one of the biggest hurdles couples face during IVF. Guficin Alpha uses thymosin alpha, a naturally occurring hormone. It helps create a more receptive environment in the uterus, making it more likely that the embryo will implant successfully.
So they're not just throwing more IVF at the problem.
Right.
What other solutions are they offering in the Ferticare space?
They've also launched Supergraph, which is an ultra-purified version of a hormone used to stimulate egg production in women going through IVF. It's really helpful for women who don't respond to the traditional hormone stimulation.
They're covering a lot of bases. Okay, we've talked about life-saving antibiotics and groundbreaking fertility treatments. What other areas are they working in?
Well, they also have their Aestheter division, which is all about aesthetics and beauty. They're making a big push into the botulinum toxin market.
You mean Botox?
Exactly. Their brand is called Stenex, and it's getting popular. They're also working on dermal fillers.
So they're tapping into the demand for anti-aging solutions. It seems like they've got a lot going on, but they're not just sticking to India, are they?
You're right, their ambitions go beyond India. They've recently gotten approvals for key products in countries like Sri Lanka, Lithuania, Ecuador, and Kenya.
Wow. So they're expanding globally, but they're being selective about which markets they enter.
Exactly. They're focusing on regions where there's high demand for their specialized injectables, particularly antifungals and their fertility products.
Okay, so it's like a carefully orchestrated global dance. We've got a lot more to cover their other divisions, their move into the botulinum toxin market, and a closer look at their financials.
Yeah, and we can't forget about the challenges they're facing like pricing pressures and regulations.
We've got our work cut out for us. Let's take a breather, and when we come back, we'll get into more of Gufic's growth strategy and what it all means for you, the listener. Okay, we're back and ready to continue our deep dive into Gufic BioSciences. We've covered a lot, but there's still so much to discuss. Before we move on to those other divisions and all of their ambitious plans, I wanted to go back to something you mentioned earlier, pricing pressures. It's a reality in every industry, but how is Gufic dealing with it?
Yeah, it's a tough one. The pharma market in India is so competitive. Lots of players vying for that market share. And it puts pressure on prices, which of course impacts profit margins.
So how are they staying competitive without sacrificing profitability?
They're doing a few things. First, they're focusing on innovation, developing those unique formulations and delivery systems. That way they can differentiate their products from generic competitors and get a better price.
So it's not just about making more, it's about making better, more specialized medications.
Right.
Okay, what else?
They're also working closely with hospitals and healthcare institutions. By going direct, they can negotiate better prices.
That makes sense. They can establish themselves as a trusted partner and have more leverage in pricing.
Exactly. And they're expanding globally. Pricing could be different in other markets. Sometimes they can actually get higher prices overseas.
So it's a mix of innovation, strong partnerships, and that global diversification to deal with pricing.
Right. And we can't forget about their CMO business.
Oh yeah, they're not just making their own products, they're manufacturing for other companies too.
Exactly. CMO stands for Contract Manufacturing Organization. This is a smart move because it brings in consistent revenue, no matter what's happening in the market. It also means they're using their manufacturing capacity efficiently and keeping costs down.
It's like a safety net. Okay, let's talk about that global expansion. You said they've gotten approval in a bunch of countries. What's their strategy? Big bang or more of a step-by-step approach?
Definitely step by step. They're targeting regions where they see the most potential for their products, like those antifungals and fertility treatments we talked about. And they're being smart about which regulatory environments they're going after.
I imagine getting a drug approved in the US is a lot harder than in, say, Sri Lanka.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The U.S. is super strict with all those regulations, and the approval process can take forever. It's a massive market, but it's really tough to get into. So Gufic is starting with semi-regulated markets where it's easier to get in, and then they'll move to those more challenging markets like the U.S.
Smart. Testing the waters first.
Yeah, and they're careful about which products they launch in each market, focusing on products that meet specific needs and where they have a competitive edge.
So it's all very tailored.
Yeah, and they're building relationships with distributors and healthcare providers in these new markets too.
So it's not just about getting the product approved, it's about building that support system.
Absolutely. And they're also investing in marketing and education to get the word out.
It's a solid plan for global growth.
Yeah.
Okay, now about those other divisions. We talked about Criticare and Ferticare, but they have a few more.
Yep, they've got Stellar, Spark, Healthcare, and Spark, each one focused on something different.
Let's start with Stellar.
Okay, so Stellar's all about specialty therapies, orthopedics, gastroenterology, and women's health. They have some cool new products like Vonobase, which is an acid suppressant, and Guficox P for pain management.
Wow, they're really covering a lot. What about Spark?
Spark is all about scientific engagement and product diversification. They're active in gynecology and ENT care, and they do a lot of patient outreach and education.
So they're really focused on education.
Yeah.
Okay, what about healthcare and Sparch?
Healthcare bridges traditional medicine and modern healthcare. They've got Gufispon for neck pain, and the Salaki range, which uses an Ayurvedic herb for inflammation.
That's a really interesting approach. And Sparch?
Sparch wants to grow Gufic's reach in hospitals. They've added contrast media to their offerings, which are used in medical imaging. This helps their direct-to-hospital model and gives them a more comprehensive range of products to offer.
So they're like a one-stop shop for hospitals.
Exactly.
Okay, we've talked about their different business units and their global goals, but there's one more thing I want to discuss. Their move into the botulinum toxin market. It's a crowded space. Why are they doing this?
It's a bold move, but it's also a strategic one. The botulinum toxin market is huge, billions of dollars, and it's used for both aesthetics and medicine. Gufic sees this as a big opportunity for growth both in India and globally.
So tell me more about their plan. They're partnered with a U.S. company, Prime Bio, right?
Yeah, Prime Bio is their partner for manufacturing the botulinum toxin API, the active ingredient, and for developing those final formulations. Gufic even built a new facility in Navsari, specifically for botulinum toxin production.
Wow, they're not messing around. What are they hoping to achieve? Are they going after the aesthetic side or the medical applications?
Both. They launched their Stunix brand for aesthetics, And they're building a network of injectors, but they're also looking into the medical applications for things like muscle spasms, migraines, and excessive sweating.
It's amazing how something best known for wrinkles can also have so many medical uses.
I know, right?
But it's not just about making the product, is it? They need to build trust and expertise in this area.
Absolutely. They're investing in research to create new and better formulations. And they're doing clinical trials and running training programs for healthcare professionals.
So they're taking a very comprehensive approach.
Yeah,
It seems like a solid plan.
it is. But, we've talked a lot about their successes and their plans. We can't forget about the challenges they face.
You're right. Let's take a look at those challenges and their financial outlook, and of course, what it all means for you, the listener.
Sounds good. Let's pause here, and when we come back, we'll wrap up our deep dive.
Okay, so we've gone through Gufic's financials and looked at their products and even their global expansion strategy. But now let's talk about what this all means for you, the listener. Why should you even care about Gufic BioSciences?
Well, their story is more than just numbers and trends. It's about pushing boundaries in healthcare, tackling those tough health challenges, and creating opportunities not just for them, but for everyone.
Okay, let's get specific. What about the investors listening? What's in it for them?
If Gufic keeps doing what they're doing, they could see some big returns. Their Indore facility is huge. It's going to be a major source of growth both here and abroad. And their product pipeline is impressive across all those divisions. There's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, and they're not afraid to try new things like that botulinum toxin market. That could be really big, but no investment is without risk, right? What should investors be thinking about?
You're right. Pharmaceuticals is a tough business. There's pricing pressures and regulations, and the market can be unpredictable.
And all those expansion plans come with risks, too. Things could go wrong with the new facility, and the botulinum toxin market is competitive.
Yeah, exactly. So investors need to do their research, weigh the pros and cons, think about their own goals and tolerance for risk.
Don't just jump in without thinking it through. Okay, now what about the healthcare professionals listening in? Why should they care about Gufic?
Because Gufic is all about providing innovative solutions. They're focused on antimicrobial stewardship and science-backed fertility treatments. They want to address unmet needs in things like pain management and aesthetics. They want to be a partner for healthcare providers.
So it's more than just selling products.
Yeah, they're working with healthcare professionals through training and collaborations. They're sharing knowledge and helping them deliver better care.
And what about the patients listening? What's the takeaway for them?
Gufic wants to improve outcomes for patients. They're developing treatments for those serious health challenges, from infections to infertility to chronic pain. And they're trying to make these treatments more accessible and affordable.
It's about making a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
So Gufic's story is about impact. It's about innovation and creating a better future for everyone.
Exactly.
But of course, we've only scratched the surface here.
Right, there's always more to learn.
Keep asking those questions, dig deeper, and form your own opinions.
Don't just take our word for it. Think for yourself.
And don't forget, healthcare is always changing. Gufic's story is still being written.
Yeah.
So stay informed, stay engaged, and be a part of it.
We hope this deep dive gave you the information you need.
And if you have any questions, please reach out.
Until next time, keep learning, keep asking, and keep diving deep.
That's it for Gufic BioSciences.